Diagnosis for autism is commonly done when the person in question is a child. This helps the parent quickly grasp anything the child needs and also get help if need be.
However, not every child is afforded this luxury. In fact, many autistic children fail to get a proper diagnosis.
But this ultimately begs the question of how someone would go by getting a diagnosis as an adult after the ability to get one as a child is past, and if it's even possible or worth it. Not only is it still possible to get a diagnosis, but there are benefits to getting one even in adulthood. It's worth discussing the procedure done to diagnose children with autism before proceeding, to provide some context for adults in similar positions. According to DSM-5, or Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 5th edition, there are 3 areas of deficits in social communication and interaction to be considered for having ASD. The first is the failure to have social and emotional reciprocity. These include the failure to have a back and forth conversation, a lack of shared interests and emotions, or failure to respond to social interactions. The second is the failure to have nonverbal communication. These can be from not having any facial expressions and nonverbal cues like hand waves or abnormalities in eye contact or body language. There also needs to be at least 2 or 4 types of restrictive, repeated behaviors. These include stereotyped or repetitive motor movements, use of objects, or speech, e.g. simple motor stereotypes, lining up toys or flipping objects, echolalia, idiosyncratic phrases, instances of sameness, inflexible adherence to routines, or ritualized patterns of nonverbal or verbal behavior, e.g. extreme distress and small changes, difficulties with transitions, rigid thinking patterns, greeting rituals, need to take the same route or eat the same food every day, highly restricted, fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus, e.g. strong attachment to or preoccupation with unusual objects, excessively circumscribed or preservative interests, hyper or hyporeactive to pain/temperature, adverse response to specific sounds or textures, excessive smelling or touching of objects, visual fascination with lights or movement. If you notice from the criteria listed, they pertain to children. There's not much information when it comes to adults getting a diagnosis. In fact, the criteria listed must be present in the early developmental period. But that's not the only reason adults fail to get a diagnosis.
Many adults choose to go to the route of self-diagnosis when it comes to figuring out if they have autism.
This usually happens from reading descriptions from friends and family that match with their personal history and life. This research is through books, the internet, and through support and information organizations like AANE. Independent exploration can provide sufficient answers and confirmation that an Asperger's profile accounts for challenges faced and talents possessed. Some individuals do not find that getting an official diagnosis is necessary. The second reason would be their environment, such as family or their social climate. There's a reason numerous adults are diagnosed in retrospect than when they were alive. One very famous example of someone with autism whose life became better once they got the diagnosis is singer Susan Boyle. To give some context, Susan Boyle at a young age was misdiagnosed with brain damage due to the lack of information at the time, and it negatively affected her life.
For years I thought I had something a bit more serious, so that was sort of took it off my shoulders a bit.
You've been very open about your Asperger's, which is decent of you, because a lot of people try to keep that stuff secret, and you haven't done that.
It's nothing to keep secret, really. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
No.
Everybody has something. A wee flaw, if you like. But they shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's something that you bring out in the open in the hope that you help other people, But I'd like to feel I'm the voice for people who have been the underdog.
No,
Mark Lever, the chief executive of UK's National Autistic Society, also adds, diagnosis can be a critical milestone for people with the condition, which, as Susan said, can be a relief providing an explanation for years of feeling different. It can also offer a gateway to identifying appropriate support, and without it, many people may find it difficult to access the help they need. There is a snag, however. The diagnosis criteria listed are for children. It makes it seem like it's too late for adults to get a diagnosis. Unlike Anthony Hopkins, who received his diagnosis at the whopping age of 77. Not only that, but he attributes his autism to why he's such a gifted actor. Definitely looks at people differently, and my view will not be the same as everyone else. which helps him disappear into his role, as an article from Medium.com discussing his autism describes. Community creator Dan Harmon also found out when he was an adult, as he was writing the character of Abed for his show.
So I researched this thing just to make sure I never did something like have Abed say he loves pickles, and then it's like everybody knows that nobody with any form of mild autism or any spectrum disorder, you can't stand any briny food or cucumber-based product. Now he blew it. That was the impulse. So it's like, just make sure you got this right. You got a handle on what this is. And so I researched it, and then it just started sounding awful familiar.
Anthony Hopkins and Dan Harmon showed that it's still possible to get a diagnosis, even into adulthood. So now that it's clear that it's possible for people to get a diagnosis into adulthood, the question is how?
To start, you have the option of pursuing neuropsychological testing with a neuropsychologist or a psychiatrist.
While it certainly isn't necessary for getting a diagnosis, the findings can offer a clear avenue for communicating their strengths and struggles to friends and family. For others, it can open the door for needed supports. You can check out the resources in the description if you want more information on how to get a diagnosis. But hopefully this video is giving you a good starting point on where to look.
Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one.
Thanks for watching.